Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 620. I had the white pieces and started with knight f3. My opponent went knight c6, a very unusual move, and well, we get generally a strange opening. I'm trying to go for a Reti system, and I just stick with that. After knight c6, I would probably do better if I just wanted to have the best possible game from this point. Pushing one of the center pawns forward makes a lot of sense in this position. But I was going for the Reti setup, so g3. He goes d5, and I go c4. And actually, he can take this pawn and have a slight advantage. This is a bit of a gambit where you don't have maybe complete compensation, or you have to waste some time rounding it up. But it leads to different and interesting positions. If you have a strong bishop on this diagonal, so you have compensation for the pawn, even if you don't grab it back immediately. Instead, he played the somewhat strange move, bishop to e6. So I went ahead and took the pawn, and then he took back with the queen. We're really out of the opening book at this point. But actually, if he were to take back with the bishop, this is still a fine position for black. It's a little bit unusual, like I said, but I haven't played with white in the best way to take advantage of that. I've just gone for this quiet Reti setup, and so black is doing fine. I mean, I'm going to bring my bishop here and castle, but his bishop is in a good spot to trade itself off for my bishop before it becomes too powerful. Instead, what he played was queen takes d5. And after this, black is worse, and he stays worse the whole rest of the game. So we'll kind of watch it step by step as he goes downhill. Bishop to g2. He moves his queen away from the glare of the bishop. Both sides castle. Now, castling queenside probably isn't too bad at this point. If he wants to castle, it's going to take a long time for him to castle on the king side. Not only are those pawns, not only are those pieces not developed, but the pawns are still blocking in the bishop. So it would take some time for him to organize kingside castling. But it seems that his idea was to castle queenside and try and get a quick attack going. The problem is, his idea with the quick attack was to launch his pawns forward, and there's no real target over here. But let's see, we'll get to that. The chess engine here thinks that there is a threat of knight to g5 and wants to do something about it. And the two engine moves were either h6, stopping or controlling that square, or bishop back to d7, just getting away from knight d7 or knight g5. Knight g5 and then taking the bishop would leave black with this horrible doubled pawn on the e-file, and it would also lose the bishop pair. So knight g5 is a bit of a threat here. Let's see. He played instead b5, and so this is what I was talking about. And the engine says that the best way for me to play against this is to go with this knight g5 idea. Although he can retreat the bishop at this point, but I don't know, this seems like kind of a wasted move in that case. But the funny thing is, the engine evaluation right after b5 is shifted to a value of plus 3.2. So that means that's a whole piece, right? It means even though the material is even, the chess engine thinks that white is basically a piece up. And the way I play it, I don't keep that full plus 3 advantage, but just normal development leaves me with an advantage of plus 2. So it's still a completely winning advantage at this point. It's kind of funny. So on move 7 already, the game is just lost. After queen takes d5, black was worse, but he wasn't lost. But after he played b5, it's actually a lost game for black. Anyway, I played knight c3. It's still lost, even if that wasn't the best move. He kicks it. We go to e4. And now he plays knight b8. This also is a very helpful move from my point of view, undeveloping one of his few developed pieces. He wants to get it out of the way of the c-pawn and launch that forward. Let's see, I go bishop to d2, pinning this pawn, and I'm planning to attack it with a3. And he plays c5. And, there's an old saying that goes, when you find yourself in a hole, the first thing you should do is stop digging. And he's doing the opposite of that. He's keeping on digging, moving yet another pawn in front of his king, and just causing more trouble for himself. I mean, the idea of a pawn storm is not a bad idea, but you have to make sure that what you gain by pushing those pawns forward is more than what you lose. Here he's losing all the protection around his king. He hasn't got the pieces developed around the king to protect the king, so it's the fact that he's giving up the pawn shield without without having adequate piece protection. That's a huge issue. And then the other one is, the other problem with this particular pawn storm is there's no great targets over here. He's kind of launching those pawns forward into empty space. It'll be several moves before they even come into contact with my pawns, and then the most they can do is inflict some minor pawn damage. So you're taking a huge risk and for only a tiny benefit. So just not a good way to go about it. So he played c5. And with this move, the evaluation jumps from +3 to +8. Well, the combination of knight b8 and c5 has increased the evaluation that much. So it's like I'm a whole queen up, practically. So there's a cute tactic here. And it's, well, I would say it's a move that's tactically justified, maybe is a better way to look at it. So if you want to see if you can find a good move for white here, what's the best move for white? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. Pause the video if you want some time to think about it. The move here is just knight takes c5. That pawn is not really defended by the queen, because if the queen comes over and takes it, the rook will skewer the queen and the king. So that pawn is just up for grabs. And after this, then I can go after this pawn next. And I've just removed the. I've just created an open C file for attacking his king. So that's just a great move here, the best move in the position. I didn't spot that. I played A3, just continuing with my plan, which still leaves me with something like a +6 advantage, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. It's 2 pieces, and yet the material is completely even. Even the pawns are the same. The real one real problem here is those 2 pieces. Well, he's got 3 whole pieces that are sitting over here doing absolutely nothing. So the fact that the engine evaluates this as being 2 pieces up for white, I guess it's not that surprising, but it does seem funny. Because engines are pretty clever at finding ways of getting pieces into the game, and the fact that it's already hopeless at this point is kind of amazing. Anyway, he drops his queen back to b6 to unpin. I go ahead and take this pawn, and he doesn't want to take back because that would open up the c file once again, so he pushes on. I take, and then he takes with the bishop. He should actually have left that closed. He takes with the bishop. I pin it. And then he plays knight to c6, just giving up the bishop. And after knight c6, the evaluation jumps all the way up to +15. So that's a queen and a rook and a pawn. It's a huge advantage. Let's see. But what can he play here? His best try maybe is queen b5, but then I'm going to play b3, attacking the pinned piece. And I will start to get a material edge finally, as well as having just a great position with his exposed king. Okay, but he went knight c6, so I took the bishop. You know, he does have this pawn here, this pin along the d file, but it doesn't seem to cause any trouble. I guess there's no great way for him to exploit it. This bishop is well protected, and the queen can move away at any time. Let's see, he goes king to b8 to unpin. I start piling up on his knight. He goes rook c8 to defend. I just bring another rook over. And he goes knight to f6, finally developing one of his last pieces. And now I just cash in. He didn't defend this knight. Maybe there's no other way to defend it. No, I'm sorry. He could have tried to bring his king forward, defending that way. But I just cash out at this point since he didn't defend the knight. I just take it and go 2 pieces up. Although I wasn't paying attention. He's actually attacking one of my pieces, so it turns into a big trade, and I just stay 1 piece up. But the best moves here are either knight to e5 or knight to d4, just piling up on this knight, which is pinned. If it moves, then I'm going to grab the rook here with check, and I'll probably mate the king pretty quickly. It doesn't have many squares to run to, and the queen over here is the only defender. Anyway, that would certainly be winning. So that's the fastest win, bringing the knight in, just piling up. But I decided to cash in at this point. A little bit of a mistake on my part, because I wasn't noticing until a few moves down the road that he's hitting my knight here, and so he gets one of his pieces back. So I'm only 1 piece up. But I still have this huge advantage, just because this bishop and this rook in the corner are still not developed. So I may have one extra piece, but I have 4 extra pieces, or 3 extra pieces when you consider all the pieces I have that are playing compared to his one piece. Okay, let's see. I went bishop f4 check to get my. I didn't want to trade it at this point. It actually was protected, but I wanted to activate it with tempo. King goes to b7. So I go rook c7 check. King ran to b6. Go knight to d4 now, bringing the knight into the game, and opening up both of my bishops out onto the queen side, which is where his king is hanging out. And he goes knight d6. And so right here, there's a mate in 5 if you want to put on your thinking hats. And this is pretty fascinating. It's not. I guess it's easy to believe there would be something good here, just because he's only got one piece around the king, and I've got 4 pieces, the rook and these 2 bishops and the knight, attacking the king. So it looks like there ought to be something here. The big problem still is that he hasn't got these pieces off the back rank, and the bishop is still shut in by pawns. So, but to actually find the mate in 5 is a bit tricky. So if you want to pause the video here and think about it, it makes a pretty good puzzle. And there's more than one mate in 5. I'll give an example, but go ahead and pause the video and see if you can find one of them. Okay, I'm going to give an answer away, but you could have a lot of fun with this position even after seeing the mate I show you, just setting it up on a board and trying to find all the different ways to mate the king. Starting with bishop takes e6. I think most of them start with this move. I think they all start with this move. You have to get rid of that defender, the last defender around the king. Takes back. Then you can throw in this check, and now you can start to see the mating net. Notice that the knight is guarding this square. The pawn is guarding those squares. There's only one legal move for the king. King has to go here. And now the really clever move, bishop to d5. And this stops this pawn from coming forward, which prevents this bishop from getting into the game. Let's see, he can try some maneuver like this. And then knight here. It's the next step in the mate. So you can feel the noose tightening around the king. Notice the king has no squares at all. No squares to go to. This rook is defended, and the bishop can't be attacked. And the knight coming in here is closing the escape square, which is going to prepare the final move. Say rook comes over here to challenge the rook. You're running out of time here. You've got to deliver the mate now, but you have b5 mate. So that's the mate, and it's using all the remaining pieces. The bishop supporting the rook, the knight guarding this escape square, and the rook defending the pawn, and the pawn delivering the mate. So a pretty combination. Okay, so I didn't spot that. At this point it's easily winning after knight d6. So I just retreated my rook and just went for an endgame, and that's winning too. But the evaluation drops quite a bit. I could have won it sooner. But well, when you're playing a blitz game, sometimes you just want to go for the simple win. But this allows him to activate a little bit. He plays. Cancel that. He played f6. Oh, he wants to play d5 and fork my 2 pieces. I go knight to e6, and he goes g5, opening up an escape route for his bishop, and I take the bishop off. And at this point, my mating chances have disappeared. Up until this point, there was still various mating ideas. After this trade, the evaluation drops to where it's only +6, and so he takes my bishop. And then I escape with my knight. I escape with check. His king runs to b5. And I bring my rook in. I want to round up some pawns. Just to... well, I'm still a piece up in the endgame, but you have to make sure you go into the endgame with a pawn advantage to win with. And he's going to start gobbling up some of my pawns. So a bit of a race here to see who can capture the most pawns. Let's say I go with knight c5 check, getting out of the way with tempo so I can attack his pawn. And I grab this one. And f takes g3, f takes g3. Yeah, so I'm a pawn up as well as a piece up. And let's see, he goes knight f5. I Move my rook back to a7. Don't want to run into any forks with his knight. As long as he has a knight, there's a possibility I could still lose this game, I guess. He goes knight to e3. And I just moved my bishop away. I didn't want to trade any more pieces at this point. I just wanted to push the pawns forward. He went on with f5. I went rook to a8. So, well, maybe, yeah, that's right. I wanted to preserve the bishop so I could trade rooks. That's the main reason why I was doing that bishop move. I didn't object to the piece trade so much as I just wanted to get a simple and easily winning position. So I went h5. Go bishop back to f3, hitting his pawn. He went knight to g4. I just took off his last piece. He took with the f-pawn. And then I just brought my king up. He went king c3. And let's see, I brought my knight over. He went king d4. Knight to f6, hitting his pawns. I'm going to round up these pawns. And at this point, he finally resigned. So anyway, I thought there were some cute moments in that game and some lessons. But the main one is, if you're pushing pawns in front of your king, make sure you're doing it for a good cause. Okay, see you guys later. Bye.